Hello, everybody. Hello, anybody. Ryan Wynn here, going live a little late on Saturday night. We got some Institute 91 playing in the background. We got permission from them to use their music. Or him. I think it's just one dude. Anyways, I'm going to give us a minute to let some folks show up. Zoom in on the page we will be working on. I'm also going to tweet out that we are live. Let all the peoples know. Here we go. All right, so feel free to pop in any questions into the chat. Looks like we have a Jobu in the house. Hey, Jobu. Yo, yo. And we have my trusty wrench, Tie Iron Ranger. Hey, party people. Hope everyone's having a good Saturday night. All right, I have tweeted it out, so let it be tweeted. So let us get to work. All right, tonight's page, let's adjust our camera. This is a iPad Pro, the 9.5-inch screen. This is my Apple Pencil. I have a funky holder on it. Let's get a little light in the situation. Not a funky holder, but I got a holder on it. And we are inking a page of Hammerella. Hammerella is a story tied to the Gods and Gears universe. It's a one-shot that we have up on Indiegogo right now. It is sort of a cosmic jungle book where we have the young Hammerella here, grows up on a distant world filled with all sorts of deadly beasts. And when she finally escapes, she finds herself in the midst of a galactic war filled with giant mechs and killer robots and stuff like that. So it's going to be tons of fun. It's very much inspired by European comics from when I was a kid and Japanese animation. So what's going on in this page is one of the pages where she's young. She has been chucked by the Emberhawk into the Emberhawk's nest. And she's going to have to fight her way out past the fledglings, these young baby Emberhawks here. All right, let's see what's up in the chat. We got Ty on saying, I'm working on a Liam Sharp Wonder Woman copy, so it's a good but frustrating night. Yes, you know, Liam's a great person to look at for Wonder Woman, or for anything. He's a fantastic artist, super cool dude. I forgot to recommend him to you when you were looking for Wonder Woman artists. That's a good job on you. All right, I think we're lined up here. Gonna try my best not to knock the camera about because it is just my phone and it's on a movable arm hanging over my desk, and sometimes I forget it's there and give it a whack. All right, we're gonna go in and do some, well, I was gonna say speed lines, but first we're gonna do this chicken foot. Maybe you guys can tell me if the volume on the music is okay or too loud or not there at all. Just kind of want something slightly in the background so that when I'm not talking, it's not just dead air. Hey, I see Benjamin Soto in the house. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Thank you for the kind words. Happy Saturday night. Hopefully everybody had a safe Saturday. Unless you hate having safe Saturdays, and I hope you had a dangerous and thrilling Saturday. I used to hate safe days, safe Saturdays when I was young. Wanted everything to be a little dangerous, a little exciting. And now I don't want any events at all. I'm so boring now. I'm like, oh, can I just sit and ink all day? All right, cool. All right, so these are, like I said, these are the young fledglings of the Ember Hawk. Oh, I don't like that at all. I hate having to jump back, but I was not thinking when I threw those lines. There we go. Whiskey in the jar, oh, Saturday night. All right. We got a good hail peeps from Edwin. And like I always say, when Edwin pops in, do as he says, sign up for the ACE mailing list. All right, Soto's up coloring tonight, Benjamin Soto. So what's he say here? I'm up coloring, so it's great to have your company. Hey, buddy, right on. Yeah, I'm going to be working for not more than an hour. And if I miss your guys' comments, I will try to get back to them. I'm going to be heads down at this for a few minutes. I always say that, and then I end up reading a bunch of comments, but we'll see. Whoops, I'm going to turn the music down a little. There we go. All right, now I'm going to switch it up. This is a custom brush I made out of a calligraphy pen. Where'd it go? Boom. I call it my Flick Nib 2, and that's because it allows me to move quickly and get these cool flicks like you would with a Hunt 102 or a deleter pen. It took a little manipulating to get it there because it doesn't necessarily work great for other kinds of lines. So I don't do all my inking with it, but for these kind of lines, it works great. All right, here we go. So I like to add these sort of anime speed lines to figures. It gives them like, makes them more kinetic. And you want to be careful with speed lines. You either want speed lines on the objects or on the things behind them. Let me see. Let me rephrase that. You either want the speed lines to be on the objects that are moving, like say the chickens, or I call them the chickens, they're hawks, baby hawks, or say a car that's going by. And it makes it look like that's moving. But if you were to focus on the object, you would blur the background, if that makes sense. Again, I'm still trying to learn how to translate a lot of concepts for art, because you can show stuff sometimes, but then trying to explain it in words in English, I screw up. But yeah, so you can't have both things moving. That's basically what I'm saying. So I wouldn't do speed lines on the objects if I'm doing speed lines on the birds or a car, whatever the fast moving thing is. But then if you catch up and you focus on the moving object, the background will appear to be moving. So go ahead and watch your favorite car chase scenes. See what they do with the camera. I recommend Planet Terror, Drive, Bullet. It's an old movie, but great use of camera in a car chase. And yeah, they don't use speed lines in movies, but look at where they put the camera, and sometimes the camera will be moving with the car, and the background is blurry, and sometimes the camera is stationary, and the car goes by, and the car is blurry. So look and study all of that stuff. All right, there we go. And there's not much detail or blacks in here because inside the nest, like I've shown here, the nest is on fire. It's constantly burning. So it's going to be a lot of bright oranges and reds. And I want the little bit of black to be Hammerella's foot running off, and then the little bit of black on the young Emberhawk chicks. All right, you know what? I forgot I can whip fast with this pen. my other pen is, I call it my awesome brush. I basically took, I think, the studio pen in Procreate, and I've just been slowly manipulating it over the years, getting it to where I want. Originally, all my settings were based on how I inked Trevor Hairsign, because he was the only person I was focusing on inking, especially while I was at Valiant. And he was the only person I really cared about digitally inking because I wanted it for the speed. Again, feel free to ask questions. I will get back to the chat in a moment. All right, I haven't used this pen in a while. I'm actually pretty happy with it. Gets a really sharp point. This is exactly the kind of line an inker like John Levisay throws. I was his assistant over Howard Porter on the Flash, and he was so good at these fat bleeds. He would just whip that nib, just whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And it sounded like that too. So I'm gonna do, there's not an object here, but I'm gonna do this batch of blurry speed lines, almost hinting at her other foot having just moved past there. And if I don't think that works later, I will get rid of it. All right, switching back to my Awesome Brush 1. Boom, Awesome Brush 1, my regular ink pen. It is set at 13. I keep it at that size. Like I said, I think it was the studio brush that I manipulated. And by that, I just mean I went in and messed with the streamline, with the rotation. I may have switched aspects of the grain or the shape of the brush. All right, I don't like those stick lines. See, I've got these little sticks that are just hinting at the edge of the nest and the floor of the nest. But here it runs into a little tangent there with those speed lines. And I think the simple fix is to freehand select those speed lines and keep it uniform, and we'll just move it up a little. And then when I go to color, I can clearly indicate that this is the floor of the nest and this is the wall of the nest running along there. All right, so we've got our angry mother hawk. She's all ticked off that Hammerella is not being eaten by her kids. And this is the panel where Hammerella escapes. So you can see everything. It's kind of hard to see on camera there. But we have the hawk, the nest, and Hammerella jumps out, and she's basically coming at the camera here, exiting the page. And this is an open panel. There's no borders, so the sky in the image will be white, and the only color will be the stone pillars, Hammerella, the nest, and the ember hawk. All right, so let's zoom in on that for a second. I'm going to see who's in the chat and what's going on. Oh, hey, we got Peter Palmiotti, good friend and fellow inker, artist, comic creator, YouTuber, everything. I'm actually going to be inviting Peter, if he wants, onto the show this week. Maybe doing just an ink session. I kind of want to do like an Ink Slingers Guild or something like that, where I invite some of my inker friends on, and we just, for about an hour, we just sit and ink something. Maybe something we've drawn. Maybe I'll pick a topic, something like that. But Peter's definitely top of the list. I'd love to get Peter on. Give him a follow. Go check out his channel. He's got his book Retro that he's working on basically live on YouTube. Gumball Rally for just the fun factor. Good friend Dark Admiral Marchair there. Ronan had a great car scene too. Yeah, Jobu, totally right. I see some Death Curse in the house. You can give Death Curse a follow from the link below. You can find Kayla Adrian, Jeff Elkins, and my good friend Spencer Desmond. They do multiple streams a week where they just go over nonsense. Sometimes I join them, and I will be joining with Kevin Castanero to be doing a weekly draw stream over there on Tuesdays following the Geronimo draw stream. So click on through, give that a follow. There's also a link down below for the Geronimo Draws channel and Roger Geronimo's book, Wirehead. Yeah, the French Connection car chase, Jobu, that was great. That was back when they wouldn't get permits. They would just shoot the scene and hope nothing goes wrong. Yeah, Fury Road, that movie was just insane on all accounts. All right, Simon and 7. Good idea, Ryan. At this point, it looks like inkers are becoming an endangered species. Yes, I agree. We got an absolutely dudeness from Peter. Cool. So I'll figure out a time to do the Inkslingers Guild and throw a link over to Peter. All right, I'm going to get back to this. We're going to do some of the rocks first. Outline the contour lines on these rock towers, these pillars. Then we'll go in and do the details. Then we'll go in and do something like that. We'll see how time's going. Maybe I'll jump ahead and get to the figure because that's really the kind of stuff people want to see. But I want to hit some of these rocks first and get the bounce with this pen working. Feel my flow and my groove. Again, we got Institute 91 playing in the background with permission. Still doesn't mean YouTube wouldn't do something to flag me. Yeah, I don't have my digital pens available anywhere yet. Mostly because I feel like they're still in constant flux. I'm always manipulating them and changing a couple things. And I feel I want to get something completely satisfactory before I start handing that stuff out or selling it. I would probably hand the stuff out first. But I also just recommend the pens that come with Clip Studio and Procreate. The G Pen for Clip Studio is fantastic. I really enjoy all the pens for Procreate. The closest thing I think to the G Pen and Procreate is actually, well, you can get G Pens from individual people, but they have a calligraphy pen in their inking section. They have an inking section and a calligraphy section, but the calligraphy pen in the inking section is its own kind of nib. And it's very much like a real nib or a G pen. So I recommend digging that out, seeing how you like it. Mess with it if you need to mess with the streamline, the tilt, whatever it is. All of that stuff sounds intimidating too, but once you go in, watch a video on how to manipulate a brush in Procreate, it's really simple. I can even show you. So let's go to the Awesome brush, pull up the details. You can go in, here's the stroke path, the spacing, the streamline. Oh, that's really high. I don't know why that was up there. It's supposed to be down in the 30s. Shape, just this circle shape. I'm actually thinking of less blur around the edge. That's the next move I'm going to make. The grain is just solid on this. But yeah, you can go in and just kind of play around with all this stuff. And it's not really that confusing. But I do recommend if you have a pen that you like that you're messing around with, make a copy of it and leave one untouched. So that if you don't really like what you've come up with, you can always start over and go back. Yeah, this is feeling much better. I don't know how the streamline got turned up. The streamline is what corrects the curve of your line. So if I turn the streamline up and I go like this, it's gonna clean up the curve. It's gonna take some of the shake out. But that's what I think kind of makes stuff look too digital sometimes, and I found that lowering the streamline and letting my hand make the mark and the curve made it look more realistic or more traditional. So sometimes you don't want that digital trickery. I do recommend, if you were doing like futuristic buildings or cars and you didn't want to be using a French curve or anything like that, turn the streamline way up and have some fun with that. It'll make the lines really clean. It makes it really easy for doing lines that are the same curve next to each other. Of course, if you just hold your pencil down, it does the same thing. Boom, boom, double tap those away. So I do sort of work in patterns. It's not always the same pattern. It's not always the same design, but what I'm doing now is basically going around and doing all the contours on these rocky boulder pillar things. For me, that's sort of like those are all the same kind of line, and just go through, and while the hands work in those kind of lines, just take advantage of the hand being warmed up for that and do all those lines. And next I'll go in and do all the rendering and stuff like that. Instead of doing one rock pillar at a time, I just kind of do with what, go with the flow of my hand. So for the alien world that Hammerella is raised on, I looked at all sorts of different things for reference. Everything from Arizona to Mars, different planets, stuff like that, like real world stuff that I was drawing on inspiration from. And these towers or pillars, whatever you want to call them, they're sort of a mix of mud castles, like mud drip castles, and rocky outpatches out in on Mars. They don't have towers like this, but just some of the textures in the rocks. And then Arizona has similar kind of pillars, and the wind and water will erode these grooves along the towers, and I'm kind of mimicking that a little bit too. I do realize now I forgot to put a link for Institute 91, the music we are listening to. I will be adding that to the chat. It's a very cool dude that does synthwave music. He has done just done an album for City of Rot by Spencer Desmond and Jeff Elkins. It's just funded, and every backer got the album. And I don't want to say what else he's doing because I don't know if it's been announced yet, but he's doing something else for a couple of creators I know, and I'm really excited. And we'll get back to questions in just a second. Oh, hey, we got Page One Comics in the house. Jimmy Reyes, loving the doubling line work on the rocks. Thanks, dude. Yeah, I don't do a lot of these bouncy lines on my figures, like sort of that image top cow line on my figures, but I love those kind of lines, and I like to incorporate it where I feel it works well in my work, and when I get to do organic material like this, try to bring it back. But Jimmy's another dude I want to get on here for my Ink Slingers Guild. So this week I'd like to bring on Jimmy. Jimmy'd be fun to have on in all sorts of capacity. Either ink something of mine, I ink something of his, or we discuss what we like about inking, but I basically want to start bringing people on for about an hour and have it be an ink-focused hour. And if you guys don't follow page one, I need to have their link permanently in the descriptions as well. One of my favorite channels. They tried to sneak a fast one on me. I had a few weeks earlier this year where I just kind of shut off from YouTube and everything. And somehow in that time period, Jimmy changed the name of his channel. And it took me a couple months to catch on. I remember one day I was like, hey, I haven't seen Jimmy Ray's video in quite a while. I hope the guy's doing all right, all this pandemic stuff. I'm going to go look him up. And he's like, bam, we rocking and rolling. We Page One Comics. And he has a book called Dragon Rage that just funded and just closed. And I'm super stoked that I backed it because that is the only chance you're going to be able to get that version of the book. Collector's item, I tell you what. I'm going to finish up this pillar and then I'll take a look at the questions. All right, I'll call these bloopy lines because they got a bloop and a bloop at the end. If I was using my standard brush, it would actually be a more squared off and it would look more like a chisel line. But when you get them nice and soft like that, you call them bloops. Matt Bat Banning goes by Bat, B-A-T-T. He's the master of the soft bloop. Absolutely love his line work. Everything about it. I got to watch him ink some Jim Lee pages once over Superman, and seriously, watching the guy create lines, it was like watching an ice skate or something. He was so graceful over the board, and he held the nib in a this really, it just didn't look like he was holding it that tight, and he just skated over the paper. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. It sounds so lame to say, but I was totally transfixed. And I had watched a lot of great inkers ink, and it's cool to watch people ink, but there was something about that watching Bat. And then I learned later on that he normally doesn't let people watch him ink, and I was lucky because he had just been hanging out at Joe Weem's house. I was Joe's assistant. I showed up and he was still there. So he didn't say anything, and I was allowed to watch him for a bit, and then he bailed. So I feel like that's I don't know. People are always like, "Oh, it was the coolest moment in comics. Was it inking this book or inking this guy or doing that?" I was like, "Nope. It was this one time I got to watch Bat ink. It was in a dining room at somebody's house with some just cheap lighting, and he was just kicking butt." Yeah, it's actually going much quicker than I thought. I had allotted myself a little more time to do these backgrounds. We're almost done with the pillars. All right, I'm going to finish up these ones here in just a sec. Let's see what people in the chat are saying. I'll make sure I'm not missing any questions. Hey, don't worry, Ty. You don't have to do any posting or anything, any link sharing right now. Don't sweat it. Yep, Jimmy can ink. Peter knows. Jimmy knows. And yep, people get the Palmiotti boys mixed up. That happens. Both great inkers, both been around for a while. All right, William C has shown up. Hey, brother. Evening, guys. Looking good, Ryan. Thank you, sir. Hope you were having a decent Saturday. Let's get back in and finish some of these pillars then. Some of our bloopy bloops. And I will probably still go back in and do one more pass on these rocks. Make sure everything feels proper about their dimension, their what do I mean by dimension? I want to make sure that it really feels like they are round in the shape that I want them to be, and that the lines I'm creating right now help to render out that form properly. So we'll go in and we'll be doing a little bit of rendering, a little bit of shading on top of some of these. And you want to be careful not to get too lost in the detail of your lines, especially in Procreate, because you can't lock the screen. A good rule of thumb is keep it out of pixelation territory. Don't zoom in where you can actually see the pixels. Or figure out what real actual size is, roughly, and then sort of don't separate your fingers. Just keep them together like that, and you won't really zoom in or zoom out. You'll keep it roughly at the same size. Because in Clip Studio, you can lock the screen at at whatever stage you want. And that way you make sure you're not doing too fine of details and too small of lines that will get lost or look weird when you zoom out or go to print. It's one of the reasons I do recommend also working traditionally, so you can kind of get a sense of how much detail would go into something, at a certain size, at a certain distance. I've used this example before. When you look at a photo of a sporting event and you have the athlete in the front, they are center, clear, crisp, and then you look at the people in the background and look at the way they're broken down. It's not just a small detailed version. Like when you zoom in on the people in the background, they start to lose detail. And you want to do similar things like that with your work. That's how you create dimension and depth. And if you don't do that, it looks weird. If you zoom in too much and do too many small lines and then pull back out, it just looks weird. Like it's trying to draw too much attention to your eye, and your eye knows it shouldn't have that much detail, because our eyes are smart. We are dumb. Anyways, I don't know if that makes sense to you, but if you're dealing with a crowd or anything where you've got to minimize details on humans, definitely look at photo reference and look at what happens in the camera and in reality. All right, last couple lines on these pillars. Bloopity bloops. Gonna double up some of them. Like Jimmy Reyes was saying, he liked the doubling line effect, and that's literally 2 lines. So if sometimes you're creating the edge of a leg, you do that. Sometimes you can throw in this little thin line, and if it's done in the right way, it kind of helps with, again, adding dimension and form to your shapes. Sometimes it just looks cool. All right, let's ink up the bird, the ember hawk. It's a big old nasty bird. Probably stands a good 20 feet, something like that. 30, 40-foot wingspan. Really big. And there will be some doubling of lines on here, sort of representing the feather shapes and the flames that are moving across it. You want these lines to be fun, bouncy, confident. And again, even when I'm inking digitally, I am lining up my shot. So I start with the pen floating above where I want the line to end, then move my hand back and press down and return. So I'm constantly doing that. So you see this little like zit, 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 my hand kind of does before I throw lines. That's what I'm doing. I'm lining up my shot. And that works in both directions. If I'm throwing a line down, I'm going to realize where I'm going with it first and then throw it. Now for me, that was something I figured out on my own. Kind of from a mix of watching different artists. All right, go and do her little black feet and claws. There we go. And once I figured out these sort of start-stop method, where it was like, oh, that's where the line stops, so that's where I start, which is why I call it my start-stop method. My brush strokes became much more confident all around, even when I was penciling, because all of a sudden, basically every line I threw seemed to have a purpose and a destination. And sometimes when things have meaning, they mean something. Look at that. Look at that kind of philosophical stuff you get from me. Sometimes when stuff means something, it means something. I hate that flame. I'll distract you from my own stupidity by complaining about my art. I should be a politician. There we go. There we go. That looks like fire. All right, angry eyes. All our creatures have multiple eyes. And even though you don't want to add too much detail, you want to hint at that on this scale. Because again, this thing's going to be small, so I don't want to do too much detail. We'll be getting back to the questions in a sec. I did see Razmaz pop into the chat. Welcome, brother. Happy Saturday night. I will be watching a movie after this if anyone has any recommendations. I'm trying to remember what we watched last night. We watched Fright Night this week. I hadn't seen that in forever, and that was actually really fun. And I've also been, the wife and I have been kind of watching, and I don't know if you want to call it binge watching, but we've been watching old Family Feuds. And that has been fantastic, super funny. Watching the late 80s ones with Ray Combe, who was a really good comedian, tragic life, but really, really funny, really tiny, really funny guy. And I only mention his height because it was something that he made like tons of like really great jokes about. But there's something kind of weird to watching somebody who's super funny when you know they killed themselves. It's kind of weird. And he had like crazy gambling debt, and there's all these episodes where he's making jokes about betting people on the side and doing all this stuff. And you're like, oh damn. All right, I need to take a 5-second break from the pen, and actually my left hand gets tired sometimes from sitting over here and spinning the page like that. So let's see what people's got to say. Everyone's saying hellos to everyone and goodbyes. That's awesome. You just missed existential Ryan with meaning. Yes, but most of the time people are missing that because it's really not happening. Oh, please, no reference to politics. I'm overloaded as is. Ha ha ha. Well, sounds like you're joking about it, so we'll start mentioning politics as much as possible for you, Ty Ion. That size bird reminds me of the Thunderbird legends of Native Americans in the Great Plains. Yes, sir. Part of that is what inspired this kind of stuff, because we are going to be bringing these beasts into our world from their world in an interesting, magical way. It's not directly tied to that, but all of that stuff is big on the inspiration for Gods and Gears. We even have Geronimo, Goyakla was his tribal name, but we even have Geronimo as one of our characters, and not Robert Geronimo. All right, we got some recommendations here. Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, which I had not heard of. Well, the wife likes a good Zach Braff movie. Suggest that. You're so cool, Brewster. Watch The Coma. It's a Russian movie, interesting, similar to Inception. Oh, very cool. Yeah, I need some new movies. I can't for the life of me remember what we watched last night. I feel so dumb when I can't remember stuff like that. But we ended up doing a run of Friday the 13th movies during Halloween week. And that was fun. She's moved on from those, and I think I'm going to be watching some of the last few on my own, and then watching the new. I guess it's the reboot, the remake. I don't know. I didn't even realize they'd made it. It came out at a time where I was not paying attention to anything zeitgeist, pop culture-y whatsoever. That was basically 2010 to 2015. I just kind of huddled up in my house and didn't do anything except artwork and drawing. I had a Twitter account that my wife would just post like events, like where I was going to be if I was doing a signing. I didn't think Twitter was a place that should be used for communications or feelings or anything like that. So I avoided it. And then around 4 years ago, I would just spend all my any social media time was just YouTube. That's why I liked YouTube. And I would throw on comic reviewers site channels and things like that, and they would just autoplay in the background. And then one day somebody had some videos, and they're like, "Man, all these comic pros are saying this and that and this and that on YouTube or on Twitter." And I'm like, "What? No, comic pros are professional. I've worked with a bunch of these people. I mean, I know some of them are troublemakers, but they wouldn't be causing trouble on YouTube, on Twitter, and they wouldn't be saying bad things about people." And then, whoa, boy, was I surprised. Professionalism had gone out the window, and I was just like, what's going on? I guess I'm gonna hang out on Twitter now and see what's up. So yeah, I've had the account since 2009, but I wasn't really active until 2015, 2016. And I'm still shocked sometimes, like, wow, people talk like this to each other, huh? Wow. Oh, people just come out and spout all that out, huh? Okay. And there's my Twitter rant. But like all things that are horrible, it's not all horrible. And I've met so many great people there. I think it's a fantastic way to announce when we have videos or products, or hey, please share this. Hey, retweet this. I think it's absolutely fantastic for that. And I would not trade it for the world. I am going to erase this little flame. I do not like that guy. Death Curse says the remake isn't bad, but it gets a ton of hate from the Friday the 13th fan base. Yeah, I can see that. I already know I'm not going to hate it. I don't know. I gave up film hate a long time ago. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be open and like things and just have fun with it. And that lasted for a while until the Star Wars movies started making me mad. I was like, nah, man, just let it go. Just whatever. It's just whatever. And yeah, then I didn't like Star Wars movies, and there's that. That's a whole thing. But that's kind of like politics. You guys don't want to hear about that. I did start. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I did start watching the Mandalorian season 2, and that was it's fun. Yeah, just like the first season was fun. All right, here we go now. The figure. And she's going to have a chewed up arm from one of the fledglings has taken a bite out of her. Wasn't quite sure how I was going to show that yet because I don't want it to be super graphic, but I definitely want it to be bloody. It's all ages. So I'm thinking of almost showing it like it's like a burn, like the bird, because the birds are flaming. So it's like the shape of the beak and then maybe burnt flesh here with like a tiny bit of blood coming off it. Because she is part demigod, so she's super tough and she's gonna heal from this. But for now, she's wounded and it hurts, and I don't think I like that yet. I'm gonna leave it for now. We're gonna move on. We're gonna start where I should have started with the head. So I remember when I started inking, I assumed everyone slid the page around as much as I did. And because for me, there's certain ways I throw lines confidently, and there's certain directions where it's harder. Like it's harder to throw a line this way than it is this way for me. So I just spin the page to make my hand comfortable. And then I learned there were some people that like tape their board down flat, did everything at one angle. I thought that was really weird. That's almost like when you're drawing in a sketchbook or something, you do that. But on full pages where you have the ability to rotate, I didn't understand why you wouldn't. So if you're someone that doesn't rotate your page and you have trouble throwing lines in different directions, try spinning that page around. If you had an art teacher that told you how to tape your artboard down to your desk, try something different. I'm not saying they are wrong or stupid or ugly or smell bad or have weird sounding farts. I'm not saying any of that about them. All right, she's gonna have her eyes slightly closed. We're gonna have a little tear coming out because she's hurt. Side two. I don't think we're gonna get much as far as pupils or highlights in here. These eyes are pretty small. I think we're just gonna do a little line like that, sort of looking down. I like to turn off the pencils and see how that reads. All right, that's working for me right now. Say, to think Twitter started as the place where people showed off his meals. Yeah, Twitter, it's not all that horrible. No, no, no. Twitter, it's not all that bad, but it can be. Twitter. Do 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 do. All right, what do we got here? I'm starting to sing and stuff. Mostly because it was Michael Bay's company making it, and they didn't ask Kane Hodder back. Oh, Kane is the best Jason. Nobody's got that heavy breathing down. Like Kane Hodder when he's on screen. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he's 65, and that's why they didn't ask him back too. I don't know, but I imagine he has a son who could have taken over the legacy. All right, so she is younger here, so I'm not giving her like the breastises and stuff. She's got a younger frame. I'm thinking she's maybe 13 here. So she's got her baby blanket cape thing that's kind of wrapped around her, and she's got her belt here. Yeah, her outfit is almost kind of like what like under a gladiator's outfit, they sort of have these cloth wrappings around their body, and that's sort of what her attire is based on. She's still going to be slightly on fire in places from having been in the fiery Emberhawk nest. Man, I can't wait to color this page. I get like that when I'm inking when I'm doing all my own work. Sometimes I hate doing the inking only because of the time. I actually do have fun inking myself, but sometimes I just like, man, I just want to get to the colors. And we got 24 days on the project. I think we can get funded. We only have 2,500 left to go. And I'm going to be streaming tons and trying to get on other people's channels to promote. I'm in talks with Red Valkyrie. I think I'm going to try to hop back up on Billy Tucci's channel with he and Niall. Kind of do an announcement that the project has been extended and that we have added, that's right, added 16 plus pages of Dean Cott's artwork. We are going to be adding the original Gods and Gears story called This Map of Mishap, a 12-page short that ran in, it came out on a Wednesday. We're going to be adding that, and then Dean is going to be adding a prologue and an epilogue to the Hammerella story. So I'm really excited about that, and it's going to help us sort of solidify how it ties into the Gods and Gears universe. And so you get 64 plus pages now. If you've already backed Hammerella, you're getting the super bonus of all that. And if you haven't yet, what are you doing here? There's a link down below. Get to it. Oh, am I inking off frame? Shoot. It's hard to be a salesman and an inker. Right, and these are sort of like leather wraps that she just has around her feet because she was never gifted shoes or anything like that. She only has the stuff that she showed up on this planet with, which was her swaddling blanket. Razmaz. Bribe the other channels by offering them a free hammer. That would be that'd be pretty funny, especially if they thought I was joking and then actually like delivered some giant hammer to them. Whoa! Like I'm falling, dude. See, animation. Yes, Peter says, Peter Palmiotti says, I've been on the Billy and Niall show. Good peeps. Yes, they are. I was on in the very beginning when we first launched. And I've known Billy for years. He was one of the old pros I met when I was regularly doing the Phoenix Comic-Con. And my first experience with Billy was thinking he was mad at me because of how I was dressed, because I used to show up at conventions in shirts and ties. And my whole thing was trying to basically like class up the joint. And he came over and was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he's, what do you think you're doing? You're trying to show us up, this or that. And I was like, "Man, what's this guy talking about? I think this is Billy Tucci." And like, what did I do to piss off Billy Tucci? And then he was just giving crap. He was joking around. He appreciated that I had taken the time to dress up and whatnot, and was giving himself crap for not having dressed up. And that was my first experience with Billy Tucci. And then the rest of the con, he was super awesome, super funny, very personable. Everyone loved being around him. Excuse me, he had all sorts of different fans too. And I remember thinking that was so cool that he didn't just have like, it wasn't just like old white dudes, and it wasn't just the cosplay girls, and like it was really a genuine just mix of all different types. I was like, that's cool that Billy's, he's got this great personality. and literally every type of person was having a good time hanging out with him and stuff. All right, we're gonna go in and do. Don Tucci is great, yes. All respects to Don Tucci. Should have been smoking with a top hat. That was later on, Raz. That was later on. I did go through that era. All right, we're gonna go in and do her dreaded locks here. You get to hear the sounds of digital inking. Tap, 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 tap. I do realize the Institute 91 has shut off. It was autoplaying. At some point, it abandoned us. Wherefore art thou, Institute 91? All right, we're coming up on an hour. I'm probably going to call it in about 5 or 10 minutes. I'm going to see how far along we get with this figure. I at least want to finish this. So if you guys got any questions, feel free to ask them now. I got your movie suggestions. If you guys got any channels you think I should try hitting up, I feel weird about asking people to be on their show, but I am learning that most people don't feel weird about being asked. If you want to be like, they're not weirded out by me asking them. I'm the one that feels weird about asking. So it's gonna feel less weird when I start having people on my show and I can like reciprocate the way I would like to reciprocate. Because I never want to be seen as any kind of user or anything. I try to be as genuine and honest and forthright and upright and not uptight and all that stuff. There we go. A little bit of rendering where her nose bends out there. Let's take a look without the pencils. All right, it's coming along. She needs her hand, she needs her staff, and then we're gonna have some rendering to do, but the page is almost done. Oh, I see 2 people saying Michael Bancroft. Michael Bancroft maybe, and I was going to say Michael Bancroft. He has a pretty loyal group who watches every night. You know, it's funny, his name came up a bunch of times a few months back, and I thought he was some old school guy that I just wasn't familiar with. It was really funny the way everyone was talking about him. I was like, man, I don't remember this Michael Bancroft guy, and then found out he was he's a fairly young new creator. And I think I've started following him since then, but I'm not sure. Peter Palmiotti says, CreatorCon event channel. I may have mentioned Philip Russet to you. I forget. You may have. I'm going to check my notes. I usually try to jot down everyone's names in my sketchbook when they get mentioned to me. I wouldn't mind hitting up Kelsey. I also wouldn't mind trying to get Kelsey on my channel. Because I've been a big fan of his. We've been slightly friends for years and years since the old DeviantArt days. I was like his #1 fan back then. And I just find him such a fun, interesting creator and fun, interesting personality. But I'm trying to reach out to like people I don't know, things like that. Kind of find pockets of the internet that I you know, they're new to me, I'm new to them. So cool, thank you for the recommendations. I am definitely going to hit them up. I got a few Facebook recommendations for people, but I'm not on Facebook, so I'm trying to figure out how to contact those people. Because yeah, I want to do whatever it takes to get the book funded, but I like I said, I feel so weird sometimes. Like, hey, I don't know you. Put me on your show. Like that makes me feel weird. So I don't want to be that person. But like I said, some of these shows they told me like, hey, you should just hit us up, you know. So it's funny the things I'm not a wuss about compared to things I am a wuss about. Like, I will run into, run at a burning car and pull people out without thinking twice about it. But I'm like, oh, hey, can I talk about my book on your show? Oh, I can't ask him. I can't ask him. I'm too scared. Oh my gosh, too scared. But I don't know. A lot of us are better at dealing with burning objects than talking to people. So, all right, let's finish up these flames, and then I will be calling it a night. We will be getting back to an ink along this week. I'm going to keep doing some sort of late night inks going on every night, but I think Wednesday we'll do an ink along again. I don't know what character yet. I'm going to look at the suggestion list and try to come up with something fun. I'll announce it way ahead of time and get a copy out for everyone so you can print one up and ink along while we're going. And that'll be fun. So, all right, so we almost finished this page. I need a little more time. I'm going to get back to it later tonight, and then hopefully tomorrow early on we can get to coloring it. And we'll do a similar setup and get to it. I'm going to look at the questions here, make sure I didn't miss anything. You really should try Kelsey. Yeah, Kelsey's great. I'm going to. As Hammerella deals with burning objects without talking. Yes, she's going to be, she does have word balloons in the script. She says, like, I think here's an ellipses to indicate she's not saying anything. And then I think here I have her do like a hut. And here when she gets bitten, it's gonna be like, ah, something like that. But so she's gonna make noises, but she doesn't know how to, she hasn't learned how to speak yet. So she's gonna have to learn how to speak from an unlikely mentor. I think I covered all the questions that were there. If not, feel free to let me know below that I screwed up. And we'll catch you guys tomorrow. So until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, take it easy, and thanks for watching.